a lot for the lot of information and the pearls of wisdom that you are blessed with us. Now, Toastmasters, please make sure that you have given your attendance, and there will be a feedback form which will be sent in the chat box. So make sure that you give your feedback to in that speech in that form as well. Now, moving on, we have heard a lot from Toastmaster Gayatri. To add on to that, we have Toastmaster Ganga Krishnamurthy, who is the extension chair of Toastmasters, and she will be sharing a lot of insights from her side. Speaking of Toastmaster Ganga Krishnamurthy, she is a passionate educator, content writer, trainer, and a mentor. She is also the vice principal of a leading ICSE school, and she has been Toastmaster since 2018. Ever since then, she has served roles like SAA, VPE, President, and also Area Director. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome the Extension Chair, Toastmaster Ganga Krishnamurthy, to the stage.
Thank you, MC. Good morning, everyone. So we've been hearing so much about why we are doing it, thanks to Satish, and what we are going to do, thanks to Gayatri. I'm sure you're all eager to know how we are going to go about doing it this year. So before I get into the process, I'm just reminded of one thing that I read quite recently. This is from Subrata Bhavichi's book. And this is a story about, or rather an anecdote from Fuji Xerox. I'm sure you're all familiar with Fuji Xerox. When Fuji and Xerox started working together, Fuji Xerox won the legendary Deming Prize for total quality management, even before Fuji, the parent company, actually did. And there was a meeting to figure out how that had happened and how Fuji can, how Xerox can actually attain this. And then there was a gentleman who was explaining all the process. And one of the members in the audience interrupted him and said, why all this process? Michelangelo followed no process at all. And the expert just turned around and replied, then first be Michelangelo. Right? So for everyone else who is aspiring for greatness, process is very, very important. So that is my Toastmaster mandatory story for the day. And I will move on to what we are all eagerly waiting to hear about. So we are talking about how we are going to be working together, the CGD team, and like Gayatri has already reiterated a couple of times now, the backbone of club growth, which is the area directors and the division directors, you all yourselves first, right? How are we going to work together this time? Let me just share one slide. I do not plan to bore you with more. So I just have one slide to talk to you about the process on the whole. This is what we are going to do through the year to build clubs. Right? As we go about looking to increase the club strength, there are 6 steps in the cycle that we are looking at. One is identifying leads and prospects. Now, where do leads come from? They can come from the Toastmasters base. They can come from your neighbor. They can come from existing members. They can come from you. They can come from me. They can come from practically anybody. While identifying leads, we do know there can be leads that have already been passed on from the outgoing team to the incoming team, existing leads that are being worked on. There can be new leads coming up through the year. So we request everyone to ensure one thing here. That is to make sure that the CGD team is aware of any lead that is being worked on. This becomes important both for you and for us. Why? Because this way you can be sure that no one else is working on the same lead. We are not duplicating effort, thereby diluting effort. You can also ensure that mapping of the club goes to the right area, to the right person, and to ensure that it is sustainable in the long run. We will be circulating a Google form to collect information on such leads that are being worked on. So please, even before any lead is approached, as soon as you hear about the lead, fill in the Google form so that the lead can be tracked from that point on to the charter and beyond. So that's the first step in the process, to make sure that every one of us is aware of the leads that are being worked on, so that we do not duplicate effort, we do not dilute effort and cause confusion. Right? That's step one. Number two is to contact and qualify. Now, what do we mean by this? We have leads, we are going to contact them, and we are going to build this. What is this qualify? When we talk of contact and qualify, let us remember that it is very easy to get a lead, actually. But what is important is the buzzword that we have been talking about all through today, which is sustainability. So when we approach the lead, or when you approach the lead, more importantly, please identify who the decision maker is. Are we talking to the right person? Are we approaching the right contacts in the organization or in the community? Someone who will be able to take this idea forward, someone who is doing it for the right reasons. Two, talk about how Toastmasters can help the community or the organization. And most importantly, more than talking, listen. Make sure you listen to what the organization is looking for. Is it something that ties up with what Toastmasters intends to do? Do they meet our vision of how to take things forward? If you think that this is not a company that is going to be able to form a club with 20 members, let's say the organization has only 100 members altogether. Remember, these 100 members are going to include the top brass as well as the sub-staff, which is not going to be the base for a Toastmasters club. So vet it out right away. Please ensure that there is enough interest. If it is an organization, let it be about 150 members or more in the organization. If it is a community, target a community that has at least around 1,000 people there. Then we will be able to ensure that there will be enough participation, interested participation, to take the club forward. So listen to the necessity. If you feel that there has to be something of an interest creator to take this to the organization, then comes the third step, which is to present the factor to the organization. How do we do that? We can conduct open house meetings, sort of, right? So at this step, again, like from the beginning, the CGD team will work with you. We can have an open house. We will share documentation necessary. We will share the resources necessary. And together, we will conduct an open house sort of meeting. Let's ensure, again, there are at least 50, 60 members in the audience. Please do not take it if the community or the organization says we will have an open house meeting for about 20. These are 20 interested people. Let's have a meeting for them. Please make sure that we are able to have at least 50, 60 members in the audience to create that interest in the first place, even before demo meetings, before we actually get into the organization and start having demo meetings throughout. Let's have one open house interest creation meeting just to vet out or just to present what Toastmasters has to offer. So this we will do for about maybe 10, 15 minutes to present what it is, have a sort of session from an educational speaker to present what Toastmasters has to offer. And the CGD team will work closely with you to present or to provide all of these resources. Then, of course, we have the fourth one. Once we identify the leads, we have registered the leads, we have tracked the leads, we contact the organizations or the community, qualify that this is a community or an organization that can take the club forward in a sustainable fashion. We start presenting Toastmasters to them. We start doing that by having demo meetings. Like Gayatri already said, there is a plan to have a pool of role players for demo meetings. So we will be working again closely with you to support you during these demo meetings, whether it is with regard to resources or with regard to people for role playing. then address questions and concerns that you may have. This is the tricky part. This is where we need to ensure that we have listened to the organization's concerns. We have listened to what is not being said also, and we have ensured that we have answered every query possible. This is one of the most important steps in the cycle to ensure that, like Satish said, we are not just chartering a club for the sake of numbers, but this is a club that is going to sustain in the long term and going to benefit every member there, because it is all about member experience. So address any questions, any concerns here. This could be about documentation, this could be about sustainability, this could be about process in general, whatever it is. Once again, we are here, whether it's with regard to documentation, whether it's with regard to role player sustenance, we are here to support you in this. Once again, we do have a request from our end for you to take this forward. When it is the time for any club to be chartered, please ensure that the documents are vetted by one of the members of the CGD team. Whoever you can reach out, all of us are reachable. Make sure that the document is vetted so that we don't have a back and forth of mail trail. We don't write to TI and then there is something that is missing, something that is not done. It comes back to you and it goes into a whole cycle. So to avoid that, let's make sure that the CGD team gets to work with you there also. Let's vet it out, make sure that there's nothing missing in the process and take this forward for a smoother run. Once all of this is done, once the documents are vetted out, we charter the club. From here on, the mentor pool chair will also, the club mentor pool chair will also work closely with you to assigning mentors and making sure that the mentors support the club throughout the first 6 months and hopefully beyond that as well, as and when the club needs support. So this, when it is done, the cycle is almost complete. And I say almost because we've only seen 5. When you charter, you are almost done. Then comes the follow-up, making sure that we go back, because whoever is bringing in the lead and working with the club up to charter cannot wash their hands off after that. Our support, both yours and the CGD team support, is necessary and should be provided as a follow-up as well for the next few months to ensure that the club feels supported. There is no gap in process, there is no gap in role player, and the club will sustain itself self-empowered throughout its journey. So that's the 6-step process, and that is me signing off. Any questions that you have, feel free to ask us during the Q&A session. We will come back and address all of those questions. Back to the MC.